podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cardiff Central Pod. Neither Benetton nor the weather could halt the Blue and Blacks' march to the URC playoffs on Saturday. We'll be discussing why Cardiff are so much better in these tight slogs and how much money should really be wasted on Josh McNally. Plus, the Rags produced the shock of the season in obliterating Ebbw Vale. The under-18s march on. There's some concerning injury news and why 11 continue to linger like a cucumber sandwich at a buffet. Joining me on the panel this week, we've got Fraser Stroud. Fraser, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. Not too bad. How are you?
Yeah, all good, thank you. We've got Tony Esposito. Tony, how are you?
Hello. Excited.
We got Steve Coombs. Steve, how are you?
Not bad. My blood pressure is bubbling away in the background. But, other than that, I'm pretty good.
Well, let's get on to the reason why it's bubbling away in the background. We regrettably start off field again, as after our pod last week, there was further statements from the WRU. I think it was Thursday that the WRU released the statement saying that the WRU today confirmed its intention to sell Cardiff Rugby to Y11 Sport and Media following a rigorous open bidding process, which isn't in quotations, but I mean, you could add quotations to that if you wanted to. They went on to say that the decision was based on the best financial future for Cardiff Rugby, including access to identified funding and security of long-term investment. The board also considered commitment to the Cardiff Rugby brand and heritage in its decision-making criteria. On completion of the deal, Y11 would become the new owners of Cardiff Rugby, which would remain an independent club and brand playing at the Arms Park. Y11 would also continue as the owners of Ospreys as a separate club, and Ospreys will continue to play in the URC and EPCR competitions until at least the end of the 26-27 season. That was then followed by a whole bunch of arguing statements back and forth between the Ospreys and the council over whatever they're doing down there, but nothing particularly from the club, who didn't even copy and paste that statement onto their own website on this occasion, unlike the first statement the WRU put out. So I guess in terms of what we know officially, we're not much wiser than we were last week, other than what we thought that the Y11 would be the preferred bidder has actually now been confirmed rather than just being a Wales Online exclusive. Obviously, myself and Fraser were on the pod last week and had our say, but Steve and Tony were not. Steve, we'll come to you first with your before your blood pressure gets totally out of control. What's your sort of general thoughts on the whole situation?
I mean, I don't think you can look at Y11 and their behaviour and not conclude that they're a bunch of shits. Clearly, Richard Collier-Keywood doesn't agree with that. He was before the Welsh Affairs Committee in Westminster last week and said, we've got three great sets of private owners currently, and whatever the virtues of the people around the Dragons and the Scarlets, I think it's hard to not look at Y11 and think they've been a bunch of shits. There's two possibilities. I mean, there are the potential conspiracy theories people have, but either we're going to end up with a merged team, and I don't need to tell any of you what I think about that possibility. We want this, to try to make this podcast monetize, and that's not going to happen if I comment on that at length. Or they're going to keep running us and wind up the Ospreys, and I think that would be despicable. I think that would leave a stain that would follow Welsh rugby and this club around for at least a generation. And to say that their dealings have lacked transparency with their own supporters is an understatement. I don't know why anyone would want them involved with Welsh rugby or Cardiff rugby. Tony?
The talking about us being blamed for a generation, we're still getting blamed for the Celtic Warriors going under, and it wasn't our fault. It was many other things, none of which were our direct fault, and we're still being blamed for that. I agree with everything Steve said. I would have used a stronger word than shit, but he's more eloquent than I am. I am one of those conspiracy theorists, though, as we have oft discussed on this pod. I have my tinfoil hat just to the side of me. I still don't think it's a done deal for the Ospreys to go, mainly because I don't trust anything the WRU ever say or anything that comes out of their mouth. I think Collier-Keywood, I think Abby Tierney, I think Dave Redding, I think Y11. are all morally corrupt and morally bankrupt. And they will use the fact that Y11 own both the Ospreys and Cardiff as a chokehold to bring the Scarlets into line. And if the Scarlets don't come into line, I genuinely think that we'll see Y11 carrying on running an Ospreys team. That statement today from Swansea Council, we talked a little about the statement earlier, but the one today about how they're still going to be moving forward with some sort of redevelopment stuff to make it habitable for men or people, as it's not at the moment. Just makes me wonder whether they're keeping St Helens redevelopment in their back pocket, again, to put that chokehold on the Scarlets. And if they can get the Scarlets to, if when the tenders come up and you've got the Ospreys and the Scarlets going for that West Wales license and it's Y11 who are in charge of two teams, all of a sudden the WRU go, oh, well, we're already working really well with these. We'll take them on board, especially if St Helens is there and stuff. And then it puts a lot more pressure on the Dragons. It's all Machiavellian, and I just don't trust any of them. Any of them. There is no way they can take over Cardiff in any way, shape, or form and believe they have any support or goodwill in any way, shape, or form. They could sign DuPont the day after they take us over, and I still wouldn't trust them as far as I could throw them.
Yeah, I thought Dan put it very well on his blog. Little plug for you there, Dan. No matter what they do, it's impossible to trust Y11. That promise in the WRU statement about valuing the heritage, identity of the club, and so on. I unfortunately, you simply cannot take that seriously. And that's not inferring anything or implying anything about Y11 or see you next Tuesday 11, as I've been trying to make a point of calling them. It's just judging them by their behaviour. I'm not sure how everything lined up because there was a change of ownership at Y11. Navis Capital came in 2023. Around that same time, they were looking to merge the club with Ealing. They tried to do a deal with us. So basically, over the past 2-3 years, they have been constantly in the background trying to do a deal with someone else. I see no reason to believe they wouldn't be exactly the same with us.
There's been 2 failed mergers with us, apparently, plus Ealing. Wasn't there London Irish or Worcester on the cards at one point? There was the Scarlets one that the players were told about, and then it got canned between the walk of Owens and whoever the Ospreys captain was at the time, between him being told or them being told in Welsh camp and walking up to tell the Ospreys and Scarlets boys in camp. And it got cancelled in between.
Yeah, that was
prior to Y11.
Oh, was it? Okay.
That whole Project Reset was prior to COVID, yeah.
Oh, okay. But there's just a history of non-trustworthiness throughout it all. And I guess that just radiates out through Welsh rugby entirely. Speaking of non-trustworthiness, Richard Holland was at the game on Saturday.
Fraser, I don't know if you've got anything else.
Sorry, I was just about to say just one sort of little missive for life, which will always serve you well. When people show you who you are, believe them. And I think we've seen who Y11 are.
Yep.
Fraser, I don't know if you've got anything more to add on what we said last week necessarily.
No, it's just the lack of transparency. It's just so murky as to motives, plans, everything. Just don't know what's happening, and it's just how are you meant to trust anyone if they don't say what they're doing or why they're doing it. And Tony and Steve put it pretty bang on.
It's oft forgot that Abby Tierney came from being the pension DWP, head of DWP under a Tory government that continually spoke out the side of their mouths. And again, you align yourself with the people you work with, really. And in those instances, she went along with what a government that was in charge for so long, and there was no beneficial action out of any of it. And she has come in here and pretty much just done exactly the same alongside Collier, Keyword, and Reading. Yeah,
I think it remains the case, obviously, that we don't know anything about what the plans are, and I think that's where this all stems from. Is increasingly, the backlash is getting more and more vociferous day by day against Y11, and there's quite a lot of focus, particularly from the Ospreys, against the WRU. And listen, I think we've all got gripes with the WRU. It's just a constant thing, but I just look at Y11 and all the backlash against them, and they're still ploughing on with it. And then it becomes a question of like, what's in it for them? What have they been promised? What have they been, given, enticed with to stay in this process? And I wonder how much issue that could cause down the line with particularly the Scarlets and the Dragons if the WRU are wanting to negotiate the current PRA again to give some sort of get more of a hold on professional rugby and run rugby departments. And if they've made Y11 promises around reducing their COVID debt, or maybe some, and this is just pure conjecture, but have they said, we'll run the rugby department and we'll give you X amount of better players or spend X amount more on your rugby department than the others, that could open them up to some quite severe legal action if that was to transpire. But certainly it would be make for some interesting PRB meetings because we see the tweets of David Buttress, who I know isn't the PRB rep from the Dragons now, but I imagine his thoughts are fairly widely shared amongst particularly the Dragons, and the Scarlets guys generally are not backwards in coming forwards when it comes to standing up for their club either. So all very messy. I think hopefully more transparency, more clarity, I should say, because there will be no transparency, but more clarity will appear. Maybe once this deal is sorted with Y11, if it does happen within this 60 days, they'll then be in a position to announce plans, and maybe they don't feel like doing it at the moment because it's not confirmed. That is perhaps the softer approach to the WRU, and maybe like trying to give them some kind of credit. But yeah, it'll be an interesting few weeks, that's for sure. Anything more from on Y11 that is broadcastable? No, all good. Right, we shall crack on with rugby then. Actually, just before we do, we did have one question in. Matthew on Twitter asks, why should we not give up hope for the Martin Ryan bid? I thought for those people who were involved in the CF10 Trust meeting on Thursday via Zoom, I thought Martin spoke really well in the first couple of minutes of that, and he was very, very gracious, probably more gracious than I would have been if I was in his position, certainly. But I thought it interesting that he noted that his consortium will hang around for a few days and wait to see if anything does or doesn't come out. But yeah, they certainly won't be going away. We know Martin Ryan was there on Saturday. I suspect if Y11 does fall through for whatever reason, whether they pull out or it just doesn't happen, they will still be there. So I think that's a driver to continue pushing against Y11, Steve.
Yeah, I think it's perhaps important to not deify Martin Ryan and his consortium
Well, yeah.
because obviously I would prefer the decision went the other way and they've been given it. And I was excited by their ideas and wanted to hear more, wanted to hear it all fleshed out. But if they did become our owners, they would also have to prove trustworthiness. You've got to walk what you've spoken, or walk what you talked, or however that works. They would have to build trust because we've had the Helford experience in particular. But the difference is we already know we can't trust Y11. I don't think there's. Someone has said that they start with a zero mark in terms of trust. For as far as I'm concerned, they start with zero and they stay there. There's no way we can trust them. That's the difference.
Absolutely agree. Right, we shall now move on to rugby stuff and park the
Sure.
politics for one more week. No more questions that I can pull out from my ass. So, Saturday evening at the Arms Park, Cardiff 17, Benetton 8. The Blue and Blacks took a 6-0 lead in at the break after two Callum Sheedy penalties. Two Callum Sheedy penalties in the first half. Before we'd even scored a try, we went to penalties. We then rode out an Alex Mann sin bin in to stay ahead. A deluge of rainfall made moving the ball around very difficult in the second half. Rhino Smith got Benetton on the board off the tee, but Josh McNally made up for a blown earlier try by driving over from close range. A Federico Ruzza score of an unconverted try cut the lead, but we held on and even managed to steal the Italians, losing bonus point from them with a last-minute Johan Lloyd penalty kick. A couple of three-word thoughts. Mr. Bennett and Hugh both said took the points. Richard went with end justifies means. John said kicked our goals. Mark went with grinding, squeaky, important. Rob said successful game management. Harley did the job. Joe, big ugly win. Ryan, proper gritty win. Charlie said sensibly managed win. Neil said dogged it out. Paul said very important win. And Mike just summed it up by saying, I enjoyed it. Clearly a purist, Mike was. Fraser, coming to you, what's your general thoughts on Saturday night's game?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't enjoy it, unlike Mike. No, it was all right. It was a pretty difficult match to watch. I think the first half we looked quite organised and well structured, which found a big relief because obviously the last game we looked a bit shambolic. We'd made so many changes, but it was nice to see we do know what we're doing, and it just felt like we did. Yeah, we were well organised as a team, and we knew what our plan was. I think we kind of managed that yellow card from Mann quite well. He seemed he was a bit off because he just seemed to be pushing a bit further than he usually does. He was like he's always on the line, and he seemed to be stepping over a few times, but I guess he hadn't been back for a while. Yeah, we took those penalties, which is delightful. Like, good decision making, practical, easy penalties, got the points. That's brilliant. And Benetton, to be fair, were really bad in the first half. They were really sloppy and lots of errors. So we obviously that helped us quite a lot. They seemed to get a fair bit better in the second half. I think the subs. I think there was a mix of some of the subs that we brought on were massive game changers and did it brilliantly. Like I think Dan Thomas, Mulder was great in the last 10 minutes, like managing our game. I think Johan Lloyd quite well. But obviously our scrum did massively deteriorate when we made those subs, and that had a pretty big impact on how we were playing in the second half. I think Doma had just a bad day at the office. I don't think it's reflective of him as a player, but it just wasn't going for him at all. But yeah, as I said, I think Dan Thomas with that turnover, and then I think Mulder when he came on the last 10 minutes, he's been a bit off the last couple of weeks, but he came on, and I think his kicking was brilliant, and it just managed that last period just enough to get us over the line and win the game. And I think it sounds like a fairly comfortable scoreline, like 17-8, but felt very tetchy and tight, especially when they'd scored that try. I was very worried about what was going to happen. But overall, I think we managed the game well enough to win that, and we deserved the victory. So yeah, I was just pleased, relieved, and it's a crucial victory.
Tony?
Yeah, it was really good. There were some really bright moments. McNally and Knott, for example, were absolutely superb. I thought Javan Sebastian was really good off the bench as well. I think he made like 7 tackles in the short space of time he was on, or something silly like that. We look a lot better with Sheedy, Thomas, and Millard as the centre partnerships. Like, it's weird. I'm not a big fan of Millard at 13. But Thomas obviously really likes him there because Thomas seems to play better when he's got Millard there. I still feel that it's somewhere that we need to improve. Ewan Stevens was really good. Hopefully his knock isn't too bad. But yeah, like in those conditions, it was just one of those games that we needed to dig out, and everyone around me was like, "Oh, I've seen this film before. We lose this by a couple of points in the last few minutes here." And for us to take a losing bonus point away from them is such a superb thing for us to do. Like it's really encouraging that we've got that sort of mentality. But yeah,
Steve, your thoughts?
Normally, I'm not one who goes in for one for the rugby purist and all that sort of chat. But on Saturday, for the first time, I was kind of slightly disappointed that the pitch is 3G. I was kind of wishing that we would have having a nice old school kind of Arms Park mud bath, because that really would have suited us more than Benetton, because they do have so much power and strong runners, particularly up front, that they can turn games, and they nearly did. But we managed it very well, like the guys are saying. I thought it was possibly, even though he was only on for half a game, possibly Johan Lloyd's best game for us. I thought he was really impressive because, I mean, he will have come to the club hoping to play 10. He's forced to play fullback. And I thought everything he did was tenacious. He was tenacious in defence. He ran really well and showed big balls at the end. So yeah, I think that deserves a shout out. And Josh McNally, but I mean, no one else has mentioned Josh McNally because it kind of goes without saying.
I mentioned Josh.
I concur with all of that. I really liked Callum Sheedy's post. I think it was in the actual press conference. He was talking about. They asked him obviously about kicking the goals because it's a topic that comes up every week with Cardiff, really. And he said we decided it was important to get the points on the board before the weather came in. And I really like the idea of sort of Gethin Jenkins sitting in the box like an F1 guy, like no 10 minutes till rain arrives.
Though he would have been using the Met Office app.
Oh yeah, Steve's
where the
sitting
wind
next to
was
Gavin,
coming.
refreshing it for him.
Are you saying that he was reporting down that there was rain in the bottom corner, but not the clubhouse end and stuff?
There's
Okay.
this coming up saying rain on the top left, but not on the right yet, and they go right, get the points on the board now before it comes across. But it was really like smart decision making for us because it was a game where you wanted to get out in front, and we definitely rode our luck. Obviously, Benetton had that try ruled off, and I do wonder whether we'd have had it within us to come back after that because we were looking like we were slowly on the way out of that game. But credit to the boys, you kind of make your own luck to a degree, and I think we'd done enough around that to win the game. Other than that sort of little spell just after Josh McNally's try where we were maybe a little bit slow bringing the subs on, but once they did come on, they made a real good impact in that last quarter. The defensive stats are quite interesting, Fraser. 153 tackles at 92%, 5 turnovers, only 8 penalties conceded, only 2 line breaks conceded, and then obviously they only scored 1 try for 8 points. Was that, in the conditions, one of our best defensive performances of the season?
It is, but it's I guess at this point, I think our defence, generally speaking, has been so good across numerous games, so it didn't necessarily, in my mind, stand out as like, oh, this was so much better than the last games we played. It's just our defence got to a level and an expectation where it's like that is how we defend, and I think that second try that they almost was ruled off. There was some really poor tackling. That was the one bad bit of our defence in the game. But I think overall, yeah, we were superb. We were very tenacious. Like people like Barrett put himself about. He had a brilliant game today. But like someone like Johan Lloyd, load at the backs, really they tackle more than their weight, and they're really committed to defence and like pushing people back. And in the first half, I think we really, in particular, were pushing Benetton back, and we looked like the bigger team with the more physical team. Obviously, the second half with their subs came on, we maybe tired a bit, but I was impressed by the defence. But I think that's a standard that now kind of Gethin Jenkins, I guess, is set, and I kind of expect to be for us to be at that standard. So yeah, it was impressive.
Tony, I wonder, maybe a slight criticism. I think we mentioned it at half time on our WhatsApp group, but we're maybe still not quite clinical enough. Like we could have had 1 or 2 more tries on the board there in that first half potentially.
Yeah, I mean that's been the story of this season, isn't it? We've battered the line quite a few times and not come away with points. Not necessarily just in the first half, but there was one in the second half, I think about 55 minutes in or something. And I don't know whether it was the one we scored from in the end, but we were pummeling their line and not making much yards. And it was noticeable that Grady was just stood out on the wing, and you're just thinking, he is a large human being. Just have him run a short line. Like we're not very good, or we don't seem to be very effective at using the non-forwards big lads in those sort of situations. Even if it's just a dummy line that he runs, and then you've got people biting in on that, and you can spread out off the back. We seem to get a bit of white line fever. Yeah.
Yeah, I just felt like some of our red zone attack is still overly complicated. Like when is absolutely throwing it down in that period just before half time, and we spill the ball forward for trying to pop the ball to the first receiver off the base rather than just pick and go. It's like, yeah, it's worked in dry weather in the past, and we don't necessarily have the size to like continually pummel the line, but. I mean, worst comes to the worst, you maybe eke a penalty out if you go sort of six,
Yeah.
7 phases and get somebody to put their hands on, and then you can try and go and play and do a miraculous something where there is no pressure. I just feel like we rush to the complicated stuff rather than try and do the sensible stuff first and then build up into that. Would be my takeaway. And even the McNally try eventually we do just go to the latch, but we did sort of 2 or 3 phases before that where we were like trying to pull it back from a dummy runner off 9, and you're like, oh god, I don't know if you noticed, guys, it's horrible. Like it's skiddy as anything out here. No one's catching the ball, but yeah, that would be my attacking takeaway. Steve, that game on Saturday, and I think I'd put it in the same bracket as the Connacht win, and then to a degree the Edinburgh and Lions win are like really narrow games, which the general feeling I think amongst Cardiff fans is we probably would have lost them in the last 2 or 3 years. What do you think has changed from us to get us over the line in these tight games?
I think the main reason really is just that it's a group that's been together for a while now. I mean, go back 12 months, it was still a group that had been only recently assembled, particularly when you consider the amount of recruitment we did after Matt Sherritt's first season. So now it's a group that's been together a while, it's pretty settled, and that experience that is in the group is kind of coming to the fore. And you saw a number of players who I think sort of stepped up as leaders, as I guess you'd expect from players who are around the 30 years old mark. So yeah, I think it's just the cohesion that comes with playing together for a good while.
Um, Fraser, one player who the commentators were quite complimentary of on the night was Ben Thomas again, particularly with his carrying performance. I don't know, is this the best we've ever seen of Ben Thomas over this last run of games from sort of the festive derbies to now, or is this actually how he's been playing all the time, and we just sort of get clouded by the backlash to his Wales performances, maybe?
I just wrote down in my notes, yes, it is. But I'll say a bit more. But like, it is the best I've seen him play personally for Cardiff, and he has now got to the point where he makes yards every time he gets the ball, every time he carries, and as this clearly as his physicality has improved, he's again running beyond his weight. He's like can make those yards, and also I think he's just a very intelligent player. Picks the right line, attacks the right shoulder, makes those really important yards, and then he's got the ability to the footballing ability to offload if he needs to, put in kicks if he needs to. But I just think, I mean, in particular, his physicality has gone up massively, and it doesn't matter what team we're playing against as well. It's not like we're playing against a big bunch of big like South Africans and he's not making yards. He's making yards every team we're playing against. So it's kind of it's like irrelevant who the 12 is or who their centre is. He will make yards, and that's really exciting for obviously Wales in general. But it's sad that he has to go for Cardiff. But I think for me he's been like tremendous, and I think hats off to him because he's got a lot of shit for the performance against Wales, and he has been maligned by a lot of people. And I think to shrug that off, or if anything, use that as motivation to get better is amazing. And I would have just retired from rugby if someone said I was rubbish. But I think he's hats off to him. He's doing amazing. He should be proud of what his performance is really.
Tony, another player who got a lot of plaudits on the night and won the club's Pomeroy Performer of the Match, which I don't fully know what that is still. Is it like a fan
Isn't
vote?
isn't Pomeroy like a sparkling wine or something?
Yeah, I assume it's a brand name. I'm not sure what of, but I don't know how they decide it.
It's
Is
a
it like a
fan
Twitter
vote.
poll or something? Okay.
Yeah, they post out some names and you can vote on
Uh,
it.
I must miss that every week. I don't I just watching Carl's video over and over again of singing in the change room and missed the boat. But Reece Barrett won it anyway, as having started a loose head. Was that like his most impressive showing yet in a Cardiff
He
jersey?
he looked really good. I think we had a couple of differences in interpretation between him and Sam Grove White early doors. I think it was his side that was getting penalised, but after that, and I think the whole team sort of adjusted to Sam Groves White's unique refereeing style throughout the game. I'm still not quite sure what he got binned for. But yeah, Barrett has improved week on week on week to the point where he's probably keeping seasoned internationals out of the side and it's there is a noticeable drop at times when he comes off. Like that's such a big thing to say. He's playing so very well, and it's come from nowhere again. It's like when Alex Mann and Teddy Williams broke onto the scene. It was like all of a sudden, oh well, I've got to throw these young kids in, and all of a sudden they're having worldies, and Barrett's doing pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, I think it's for a while he's been on that sort of like on that edge between promising youngster and established player. And I think now we're getting to the point where he's over the line and he's
Yeah.
now an established player. And I think I probably would say he's our first choice loose out now. And like Tony says, there's a difference when he comes off. There's a noticeable difference when he comes off now. And yeah, I think Alex Mann, Teddy Williams are good examples because I mean, I don't suppose you can ever be entirely sure when a player makes that transition from being promising to being the man for that position. But yeah, I think Barrett's there now.
He was a couple of people tweeted. I put a clip out of him today, and I think Rob and Simon Thomas, the journalist, both mentioned sort of the shades of Gethin about him. And obviously, he's a long way, a long way from the heights that Mellon reached. But you can sort of see where they're coming from in the way
His
he gets around
kicking's all
the
right,
field.
though.
Yeah, his football inabilities the only thing I would say, slightly in defense, not to take away from Barrett at all, but slightly in defense of Domachowski and then coming on, is that the replacement tight head for Benetton was a lot better than the starter.
Yeah.
Like he is the Italian international. It was the younger guy they started with. I think, and you know, Domo is definitely better than he put out there. He was in all sorts of trouble with that bind and setup. And Tony, I think you mentioned that he's had problems with that since he's come back from injury. He's just not. I guess as a prop, you do get into a rhythm of like how like in training, you're used to the guy you're scrummaging against. So it's only
Yeah.
so much that you can sort of get to a level in training, and then it's playing every week. And obviously, he was the curse on the Rags as well, so we didn't get to
Yeah.
play for them.
Missing out those SRC games to get back up to match fitness, even though it was just like 40 minutes of it in someone that you don't know is so invaluable at times.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll see him like keep playing over the rest of the season now because he's had a real shocker run of injuries
Yeah.
as well the last sort of 18 months or so. So hopefully we'll see the best of Doma returning.
I mean,
Steve,
I still maintain that the best of Doma is that video that his partner
Yeah.
posted of him
100%.
stuck in a park, in a seat in a park.
Such a good video.
But
was that the cause of the injuries? I wonder. Can you trace it
no,
back to that?
this was like 2 years ago. So, or whether like he's had ongoing back problems since, but it's just that I'm stuck. Stop filming.
Yeah, such a good video.
Corey Domachowski's sideline bracket playground stuck again. Stephen, another player who I think came to the fore, particularly, he was good all game, but particularly in the last part of the game, was Josh Adams, a player who, you know, we've seen players like him before of like established Wales internationals and Lions come in, and not to like doubt their commitment necessarily, but like you kind of think, are we seeing 100% of these guys? I don't really feel like there's that doubt ever with Adams, though.
No, I mean, I don't think he knows how to play any other way. You know what you're going to get with Josh Adams. He absolutely loves it. It's clear. He loves scoring tries. He loves stopping tries. He loves the competition in the air. He just loves playing rugby. So he's a Josh McNally of the back line, isn't he? Yeah, you know, I'm serious. He's a leader. He works tirelessly. He's a fantastic rugby player, and we miss him when he's not there, just as we miss McNally when he's not there. Just quickly on Doma, I'm pretty sure against Exeter, one of the first things he did after he came on was put in a kick from inside his own half. So I'm not sure if there's some sort of like one-upmanship going on between the defenders. But if it is about kicking between them, then Barrett is definitely has the edge over Domachowski.
Well, yeah, he's got that 50-22 in he, so
Tough to stop.
There's a
You
board
have
up
to see
and it's
Danny
like,
Southworth try a drop goal.
Barrett one, Doma half one, and then it's just Gethin Jenkins in the background playing his old kicking videos as well. Fraser, there was a couple of other three-word thoughts and a player that we've mentioned a bit already, but Gareth said Warrior Josh McNally, Tom said McNally for Wales. It felt quite apt that in a week where Richard Collier-Keywood had been quoted saying that non-Welsh qualified players were a waste of money, that Josh McNally went on to win Player of the Match. Is there any amount of money we wouldn't pay for Josh McNally at this point?
No, he's so integral to what we do, and I think he'd had that half a game off, and then he was maybe not as his best, and then this week he's just back to what he always is. That is his standard. Is just he's just brilliant for us, and he puts his body on the line. This try he scored. Obviously, should have had 2 tries really, but he makes yards when he needs to. He's such a nuisance to the breakdown as well. He's like stepping over into the area of the opposition 9, and just like playing, like just disrupting everything. He must be so irritating to play against as like an opposition team. He just is an absolute nuisance, and him on that kind of form just makes all the difference. And obviously his leadership, he commands the team. He's just got such a great attitude. He put his body on the line. Yeah, I know. He is one of the best signings we've had in a long time, and we can pay him as much as we have to keep him, which is probably not much. So
he's the best second row. Oh, go on, Steve.
So it is very noticeable that whenever Richard Collier-Keywood starts talking about rugby, it quickly becomes very obvious that he knows absolutely nothing about rugby. It's the sort of point you see, like if you go into the Wales online comment section, so if you ever dare doing that, there'll be like a couple of people say, "Oh, foreign players, blah, 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 waste of money," or if you go, probably if you go on Facebook or something. And it's one of those guys, but inexplicably he's become chairman of the Welsh Rugby Union. It's the same. I mean, what was it? There are fans of players. Every time he has to comment on the actual sport, it's clear that he's I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with people coming out with outside perspectives or different skill sets, but I feel like the chairman of the Welsh Rugby Union should know something about rugby.
It's like he's been given a press packet or like one of those word bubbles of like, oh well, people on Wales Online and Facebook are saying that foreigners aren't worth paying, and it was better in the good old days, and I only support players, and he just trots them all out as he's going along, and continually gets absolutely ridiculed for being someone who doesn't know what they speak of. On Josh McNally, I think he's the best second row we've had at the club since Paul Tito. And you listen to how people used to talk about him in rucks, and they said it was amazing how sharp his elbows were, and how he could get an elbow at such a strange angle for things like that. Just some of the quotes from there. I'm struggling to think of many better that we would have had since Paul Tito.
I was thinking about this earlier because, you certainly have to go back to Paul Tito to find a second row with the same sort of gravitas about him.
Yeah.
I think the thing with Paul Tito that you forget sometimes is for big games, quite often he would start on the bench and Daniel Jones would actually start even though Tito was captain, which I think was probably down to Tito's size. He actually wasn't a particularly massive bloke. He had everything he wanted in the second row, just he wasn't actually that big.
Which is surprising seeing as he was Maori.
Yeah, the Ginger Maori. The Dan Pearce lookalike. But I think for that reason, I'd have to give it to Josh McNally. I think he is at least right up there in the best second rows Cardiff have had since I've been
Yeah.
watching them, and that's a while.
I've made a list of people that's harsh on. Philo Paulo, what about him? He was great. Damien Welsh, Miles Normandale, what about all these people?
Chris Domachowski. No, yeah, is that
Dickomedes,
Dickomedes? That was the one.
He's back in the club now. We have to be nice.
Well,
about
that
him.
was why I mentioned him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. It's just, it sounds like a much greater accolade than it actually is when you look at some of our second rows that we've had over the years as well. But he is definitely right up there. Tony, Van Zyl, of the bench made an impact. Did Van Zyl get his substitutions right, or did he just get a bit lucky that he sort of reacted at the right time?
I think we got lucky with. So Steve mentioned earlier about how good Johan Lloyd was when he came off the bench. I think Fraser mentioned it as well. I think we got lucky with that quote unquote Beetham injury, where we had to bring. Was it Beetham that went off?
Yeah, Beetham
Yeah,
went off
Because
last
Beetham
time,
went
yeah.
off, and then Stevens went off later.
No,
I think we got.
Stevens was first. Stevens went off in the first half for
It was like
Grady, and
30
then
minutes,
Beetham didn't come back for the second half.
Okay, that was it. Sorry. It was a long time ago. It was like 3 days ago. I've slept a lot since then.
I saw the picture of the number of pints that you had as well.
I didn't have that many. Yeah, so I think we got lucky with those, especially with the Beetham one, because Johan Lloyd seemed to just sort the game out. It seemed to be a bit more suited to how we needed a fullback to play that day. I think if Winnett had played, it probably would have been pretty much like for like if Winnett had gone off and Lloyd came on, but there was the flip there. I'm still not convinced Grady is anywhere near the form level he needs to be, for a multitude of reasons. He was on. So when would he have come on? Like half an hour in, something like that?
Yeah, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 30,
Do
35
you know how
minutes,
many
yeah.
carries he had during the game?
Are you asking me or are you going to tell me?
I can. Well, it was a big fat zero. He had no clean breaks, obviously. He beat no defenders, obviously. Made no meters, obviously. He had no passes, and he made 2 tackles in 60 minutes. I mean,
What I would,
what it doesn't put in that is catches and chases and things like that.
yeah,
But
and also I would like say on it slightly on his behalf that it wasn't a night for wingers particularly
No.
either. Like, but as much as I,
but as a flip side, Ewan Stevens in the short space of time he was on had 4 carries, beat 1 defender, had a clean break, made 22 meters, made 2 tackles, and Josh Adams, who was on for the majority of the game, had 8 carries, 39 meters, 1 offload, and 6 tackles. I want more production from Grady,
yeah,
both
I think
attacking and defense.
while I'm not as perhaps off him as you are at the moment, I do worry that him going into a Wales camp and potentially only being a bit part player or potentially not playing at all is absolutely not what he needs at
Yeah.
this point in time, and that him staying with Cardiff and having a week off and then coming back into training and playing that Leinster game and then coming with us to South Africa would maybe have been more beneficial for him at this point of his development. Still, he's still only young. Like, he is still developing. He's missed a hell of a lot of rugby. But yeah, I do have that worry that we're going to be sitting here in like May time sort of saying the same thing about Grady, where you're like, oh, he just needs a run of games. Like, well, he's never going to get it because Wales are constantly calling him up and just not playing him.
I was really impressed with Javan Sebastian, to end on a positive note, though. I really like him. I think I've mentioned before, I think he's probably the signing of the season for me so far. He has held up a side of the scrum and he looks good around the loose. And he pops up with tries. So to end on a positive.
As we will get onto later, he's going to be very, very crucial all of a sudden across the next 2 months.
Yeah.
To finish the questions that I had, so there was one that came in from Paul who asks, how many points do you think we need to qualify for the top 8? So I had to look back at the 4 years of the URC so far. Scarlets and Sharks both made it on 48 points, and Ospreys and Glasgow both made it on 50 points. We're currently on 35 points. So I think you're realistically looking at 3 wins and then a couple of bonus points along the way. We do have 3 home games left of the season. But obviously Leinster at home in the Six Nations window is going to be tricky, and I think the other ones are Stormers and then Ospreys in a derby, so they're not exactly gimmies, any of those, and then the away trips aren't particularly easy either. But Gareth, similar on a link note then, Steve asks, is top 8 of the URC and a quarter-final of the Challenge Cup ambitious enough for us the rest of the season? I'd put on my questions, do we dream of top 4 now after winning that one? But what do we think the rest of the season looks like now after that sort of important win? What could we achieve, or what would we be happy achieving from this point?
I mean, I'd love to say that we've still got a shot at 2 trophies. I'd love us to have another shot at getting back to Bilbao. Realistically, with squad sizes and with call-ups, we probably have to target one over the other, and I think the target has to be at least ensuring we make the top 8. At least ensuring we get to the top 8, because it's one better than last season, and that has to be the minimum. We're currently in the top 4, so to my mind, that means top 4 is perfectly achievable, and the games will get more difficult. But I think we've shown the past couple of seasons we tend to finish seasons better than we start them. We tend to have a rush of form towards the end of the season. If that comes again, and we build up some momentum, I mean, Scarlet's away, how hard can it be?
Fraser, I don't know if you've got an aim for the rest of the season in mind.
I think I was looking at I think top 6 is probably what I would be looking at. Obviously, we could do, because I guess it's Ulster in 6th, and there's Lions, and then Ospreys below, and then the rest. But there's a little bit of gap in points there, and I think we could. Well, obviously 4th now. Like, there's no reason why we can't try and remain in that position. But I think we could get top 6 for sure, and then we're in a position to do so if we play to our capacity and reach our potential. So yeah, I reckon we should be aiming at least top 6, and then Challenge Cup. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I would love to progress in that as well. But yeah, I think top 6 in the league.
Tony, tell me we can win it all, Tony.
I was going to say we're going to win it all. I was just looking at infamous Impala on the Cardiff Rugby Reddit puts out a list of matches and the points we took from last season and the points we've taken so far this year. So looking at the games we've got left, Ulster, Leinster, Bulls, Sharks, Scarlets, Ospreys, Glasgow Stormers. We only won 2 of those games last season, and that was Ulster and the Scarlets away. I think we drew against the Ospreys and then picked up bonus points, so I didn't pick anything up. Outside of that, if we can turn a couple of those results around, or even just pick up a couple of extra bonus points in different places along the way, then that can be the difference between the season ending disappointedly, which anything less than top 6 now is a disappointment based off how we've started this season. Beginning of the season, we would have hoped for top 8, but now, because we started so well and we've won games that we wouldn't have won the last couple of years, like, it feels like it would be a massive thing to throw away. And then you wander into are we really Tottenham? Just throwing stuff away. But yeah, I genuinely think we can finish top 6. I'm fully expecting us to play the Ospreys in the semi-final of the Challenge Cup at the Millennium Stadium in front of 75,600 odd people cheering on Cardiff, and then 2 people in the corner cheering on the Ospreys.
I think the other thing. Sorry, go on to me.
No. I was just going to make a joke about sleeping in a tent in Bilbao again.
We can do that anytime. The other thing I was going to say was that, as we've said, we've become pretty good at grinding out tight games, and that's not a bad attribute to have if you're in the knockouts. If you get to a knockout game, that being a team that is really good at grinding out those sorts of results is going to be a very handy thing to be.
Well, that's why I'd want the Ospreys semi-final at the Millennium Stadium, because if it's at the Brewery Field, it'll just rain again, and they'll beat us there. Whereas at the Millstad, we might be able to beat them.
It is something I haven't didn't mention, and hasn't really been mentioned after the game. But obviously, we play Benetton away now in the Challenge Cup round of 16. So there maybe is an element of laying a psychological marker down there as well after winning on Saturday. I think that we certainly shouldn't have any fear going there now anyway after the weekend. And if the weather is a little bit drier in Treviso on Easter weekend, then that will only help us, I feel like, rather than anything. So that's good. Just to summarise the table then from where we are at the moment, Glasgow are top on 39 points. Stormers are second on 36 with a game in hand. Then it's us and Leinster, both on 35 points. Munster on 34 points. Ulster are sixth on 32 points with a game in hand. Lions seventh on 24 points, also with a game in hand. And Ospreys are currently eighth with 21 points. Then ninth to 16th are all separated by 8 points. The Bulls in ninth and Zebra in 12th, which I think that's the other thing to say about when looking back at previous seasons and the points total needed. It is a lot closer, the URC this season. More teams are taking points off each other. There's not like obvious whipping boys. So whether that means that the points needed to get into the playoffs will be slightly lower this year remains to be seen, I guess, how the rest of the season plays out. But that could certainly play in our favour. Any more on the Benetton game from anybody? No, all good. We shall move on to a bit of news then, mostly injury stuff this week, unfortunately. The big news today on day recording is that Kieran Azarati is withdrawn from the Wales squad after picking up a calf injury. Not sure whether that was in the game on the weekend or whether it's pulled up in early days of training, but he's not going to be involved in Six Nations, and they've called up Sam Wainwright in his place, his first call up for 3 years. A slight reflection on sort of the number of injuries we've got at tight end in this country and sort of the lack of depth, I think, as well. But he's gone all right for us, I thought, since signing in the summer. A couple of more Cardiff-based injuries then. Ellis Bevan has picked up some sort of facial fracture, it sounds like, and is going to be out for a while. Not sure what's going on with our scrum halves in training, where they keep breaking their faces.
No, it was his wrist.
Oh, is it his wrist? Oh, that's slightly better then. Maybe it's his wrist punching other people in the face instead of He's going to be out for a few weeks anyway. Cam Winnett was due to play on the weekend, but withdrew from the team late on last week. Sounds like he should be back available this weekend. Ewan Stevens and Jacob Beetham obviously went off in the game on the weekend. Cornel Van Zyl said afterwards that Stevens had a knee injury, which doesn't look too bad in his words, so we'll wait to see the full extent of that. Beetham took a knock on his heel, so that might be one that needs to settle down for a few days, but fingers crossed neither of those are too serious. And the good news is that Matty Young, who's missed the last few weeks with a leg muscle injury, is now fit and will be available to play on the weekend. If you're enjoying what you're listening to, then please feel free to like and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're on. Leave us a review as well. If you're watching us on YouTube, like the video and subscribe to the Rap channel. There's also sister channel, the Global Gain Line as well. I'm not sure which channel. I think it's the Rap channel that the SRC pod goes out on. But tune into that this week so we can hear Rob Reese's thoughts from Ebbw Vale of the game on Saturday that led up to the first team game. Great segue there into Rags Corner. Cardiff 37, Ebbw Vale 19. Blistering start from the Rags, so Evan Rees and Harry Wilde go over before they were pegged back to 17-12 at the break. A tight third quarter was broken up by scores from Dewi Cross, Joe Goodchild, and great to see Gwilym Bradley back on the score sheet as well as he's returned to action the last few weeks. Ebbw did score late, but it didn't prevent us from getting the super duper bonus point in a... Well, I don't think anybody would have predicted Cardiff to win that one quite so comfortably. Tony, you were there watching it. What did you make of the Rags performance?
We were really good for the first half an hour, and then Ebbw came back into it a little for like the 10-minute period either side of half, or 10 minutes either side of half time. And we managed that period really well. I've defended superbly. There were some absolutely standout performances as well. The forwards, much like in the first team game, were superb. They came out and they looked like they were eager to avenge the pummeling that we got up there. Because I think they put about 60 on us up there, and then our posts blew down the next week, so we couldn't play them again. But yeah, we just took them apart when we had the ball as well. Like Goodchild looked brilliant. The pass by Harry Wilde, I think it was for Dewi Cross's try. He misses out about 1 million people, I think, when he throws it, and Dewi scores in the corner. But then there were maul tries, like they took them to town, and it was really good. like one word though, I was sort of hoping that the game being a bit later would have put Ebbw fans off from travelling down. But my word, do they travel and they are loud. It's brilliant. Like they are so very loud, but they're funny with it. And while there is always a lot of them, they are by far and away nowhere near the worst set of fans that we get at the Arms Park during the season. They are fun to listen to.
High praise not being the worst.
Not being the worst. The worst being the Ospreys, but we don't get them there very often.
I suppose my follow-up question to you from a Rags perspective is that the performance that they've sort of been threatening all season, or is that a one-off?
We've been really up and down all season. Like I was chatting to Hugh, where the attack just has looked a bit stifled. It looks like a team that we talked a bit about the first team attack being a bit up and down, but I imagine Dan Fish having to spend so much time with the first is impacting the amount of time that he can spend doing rag stuff and juggling those two jobs is going to be difficult. But some of the players we've got are very, very good. Elijah Evans looked superb again. And I just think on our day, we can just take anyone to town, especially if the HUD boys get going. Like it can be such a phenomenal thing to watch. It's like the Rags from a couple of years ago. On Saturday it was. So hopefully now that pushes us through for the end of the season. I think the cup starts next, and then push on to the end of the season, be in a decent position for some playoffs, and then hopefully don't play Ebbw again in the final.
Yeah, I we're saying as well that the Rags were without the likes of obviously Stefan Manuel wasn't there.
Yeah.
Who's been quite crucial in that midfield. Ian
Obviously,
Davis.
Stevens has got called up to the first as well.
Ian Davis was travelling reserve for the first. Tom Cottle as well has been there or thereabouts. So it wasn't even like the full chat of the Rags, but they produced that great performance. So yeah, as you say, cup now. So the SRC gets parked for a few weeks with the Rags. Now third level on points with Llandovery on 51, but with a game in hand over the Drovers, still miles behind Ebbw Vale, who are 20 points clear and I mean pretty much cruising to that top spot. But although they do get a trophy now, which obviously irks us a bit from last season where we didn't get a trophy from finishing first, but they will still enter the playoffs. And
that's why we're not finishing first.
Yeah.
Rags aren't allowed a trophy.
But cup action now. So the Rags are in SRC Cup Pool A. With RGC, Newport, Carmarthen, and Pontypool. We start this weekend away at RGC. It was our week off last weekend, so we were able to fit a league game in, but Newport beat Carmarthen and Pontypool beat RGC. It'd be interesting to see what approach they take to that. Whether last season it was very much like mix and match. There was a couple of under 18s in there, wasn't many of the senior academy guys, and then there was a couple of like guys from local clubs who they wanted to take a look at if they could step up to this level, and a couple of trialist type guys. But I think the sort of majority of that semi-pro squad is quite settled, hasn't played too much the last few weeks. So there's also the opportunity that they could stick them all out and have a real good dig at winning the cup this year as well. So be interesting to see which way they go with that, with 4 games in the next 4 weeks. And then the gap between the third and the fourth game is a 5-day turnaround as well, because it looks like we're on television when we play Pontypool at home. Other pathway bits then, Cardiff under-18s continued their march in the regional age grade championship. They beat the Scarlets 32-24 at the Arms Park. Tries from Luca Alexander-White, Harvey Bryant, Harry Turner, and a brace from Sonny McCabe. 7 points shared between Finn Britton and Isaac Manning-Burke. I think the All Wales Sport table was a bit skewed because they had the Dragons beating the Dragons on the weekend, which is quite impressive as they played themselves. But I'm pretty sure that we now cannot be caught at the top of that table. I think the under-18s are destined to finish top of it. But if I'm right, there is like a finals weekend usually where we'll play like the second place to officially win it. So that's in a few weeks. We've got a week off this week where there's 5 teams in the league, and then we'll be back to face, I think it's the Dragons in the final game of the regular season before that final. And then the other last piece of pathway news is Wales under-20 Six Nations squad was confirmed this week. They trimmed their training squad down. A bunch of Cardiff representation: Tom Howe, Tom Cottle, Gabe Williams, Sean Davis, Lloyd Lucas, Oshan Darwin Lewis, Bailey Cutts, Tom Bowen, Reese Cummings, and then Steph Emmanuel was named a co-captain as well. A fair few ex-Cardiff lads in there. I think it was 15 of the 40 are either currently or previously part of the Cardiff pathway. So good stuff. I mean, particularly Tom Howe, who should still be playing in that under-18s team and is going into the under-20 squad. It wouldn't surprise me if he had quite a lot of minutes in that Six Nations as well, because of the size of the bloke, really, more than anything.
That's what I was shaking my head at. He's just like, to go from, oh, you're not allowed to play men's rugby because you're only 17, to then turning 18, making his debut the week after, and yeah, really exciting.
He walked past me before, I think it was a Racing game. He was there, and
did you think it was an eclipse?
well, I just thought if I shook his hand, he would squish me whole. Like, not just my hand, my whole body in one handshake thing. He's a large man. Right, final part of the podcast then. We will look ahead to this week's game, the last game of this fixture block. 10 games in 10 weeks. It's been a long old slog since that one back at the end of November. Cardiff are going away to Ulster, 7:45 kickoff on Saturday night at Ravenhill, brackets, whatever it's sponsored by these days. I don't even know what it is now. It's changed again, apparently, this season on the list that I saw. But Ravenhill, only on Premier Sports again this week. Steve, I don't know if you've got the Met Office handy. My weather just says wet. I mean, I think that's just the constant weather forecast now. Every time I turn the telly on.
It doesn't update for Ulster though. That's just what it always is.
I'll do some stats and then we'll come back to Steve. So Ulster are currently 6th, but could rise as high as 2nd if they were to win their game in hand. Last week they lost 27-22 to the Scarlets after a last gasp Ellis Mee try at Parker Scarlets. They're going to be without a number of players. They've got Tom Stewart, Tom O'Toole, Cormac Isachukwu, Nick Tomney, Nathan Doak, Stuart McCloskey, Jacob Stockdale, and Robert Balakoon all in the Ireland squad. Bryn Ward, their back rower, has also travelled to Ireland's warm weather training camp in Portugal. They do have a number of players in the Ireland A squad as well who are playing a week Friday in Thomond Park. I'm not sure, though, if they've been called into camp this week, as we were discussing before the podcast. If they did, they'd have no one left in their squad. So we assume that those players are still available to Ulster. They do have a few injury concerns as well. Stuart Moore tore his ACL in training. Michael Lowry went off against Scarlets with a concussion, so will presumably be missing this weekend. And Joano Augustus has been listed on the injury report as well, and there was no sign of him coming back this week. Head-to-head wise, obviously we've won the last 2 games against them, beat them in the Challenge Cup just before Christmas, and then in the URC last season at home as well. But our record in Belfast can only be described as terrible. Absolutely terrible. You have to go back to April 2017, we got a draw. But if you want the last time Cardiff won in Belfast, it's all the way back to April 2010. We beat Ulster 24-33, tries from Casey Lalala, Xavier Rush, Dav Hewitt, 4 points from Kerry Sweeney, and 14 points from a certain Mr. L. Halfpenny, who apparently is still going somewhere. Steve, any weather updates?
Yeah, can confirm that the Met Office have it as pissing down in Belfast.
Don't get this sort of weather on the telly.
It's pointless, like, mentioning any nuance. It's going to be pissing down with rain.
Luckily, they do have their plastic pitch there now, so we'll maybe see similar to Saturday night in terms of conditions wise, but it's not going to be too much fun. Fraser, I suppose my question is a bit, I don't know if this is like overly pessimistic, but I mean, do we care much about this game in an international window with all of our players in the Wales squad being unavailable?
I think we still do, because they've got loads of players unavailable, so we've basically both lost a kind of equivalency in the players we have. You could argue they might have a bit more depth in their squad, maybe, but I don't think so. I don't think, you're saying we've beaten them twice, obviously at home, but I think again, if we want to be competing in the playoffs and kind of not just being in the playoffs and then like losing the first game and be done with it, but like actually be trying to get to become champion, not being too optimistic, but like, and Ulster are going to be in and around it. They're probably going to be in the playoffs, so we want to be showing them what we can do, and we've got to play with what we've got and adapt to that. So I think, I don't think it's like last week was obviously against Benetton. That was massively important. If we lose this game, it's not devastating to our season, but I think we should still be looking at is, as they are very close rivals who will also be competing for the championship, we should be going to beat them. They've lost some players, we've lost some players, or at least making it quite competitive as a match and getting a losing bonus point. I'm thinking at minimum, but yeah, I feel like again it's kind of that development as a team this season. We're in the top four. We're a better team than we were. Our expectations should be higher, and we should be looking up as opposed to down, or like, oh, we've kind of done quite well, so maybe we just like take our foot off the gas. But I think we go into this looking to make it a very competitive game.
Tony, what if I can offer you any sort of result now? What's the minimum you would accept on Saturday night? What would you be happy with coming away from Belfast?
I would be happy with 2 points. I would be delighted with 4. I won't take less than 2.
Are you targeting 2 then to start with in terms of like let's just go out and score as many tries as possible early doors? Or
Oh no, I want to play for the draw. just 0-0 it.
Just park the bus.
Park the
bus. Steve, in these games, obviously there is an element of rotation where you're missing your frontline players. I think we'll go into the full team sections now, but in some positions, there's sort of 2 ways that Van Zyl could go with some of them, where there's like an experienced squad option, and then there's also a talented youngster option there. Are these the sort of games we need to still be blooding youngsters in, or are we trying to be still more result focused and thinking like the experienced head is the best way to try and get that?
I mean, it's a balance, isn't it? I mean, it's not always necessarily going to be the case that having experience throughout the team is going to be the way to go. I think having the kind of enthusiasm and impetus that having a young guy trying to make his mark gives you, in addition to the experience, could be exactly what's needed. And if it is, I mean, we're not clear what sort of Ulster team it's going to be. They're obviously going to be missing a few. So there's the potential there for them to be quite a little disorganized, touch wood, leave a few gaps defensively that they might not do otherwise. And that could be ideal for someone like Matty Young, who, from what we've seen of him so far, seems completely fearless. So I'd be disappointed if this wasn't used as an opportunity to get a few younger guys into the team and give them a taste and so on. One other thing I want to mention about Ulster and our record there is I'm pretty sure at least two Cardiff coaches have been sanctioned by the league after matches in Belfast. Quite close games. Sherat did after the Phantom knock on that Mike Adamson didn't see.
Oh, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, sorry, Tommy. I've never forgotten it. And John Mulvihill was sanctioned there, I'm pretty sure, after another tight game where there was some bullshit.
That would have been the bus scoring at the bottom of the post, at bottom of the corner flag, and it not being given, whereas the rule said that it should have been given. Was that one?
Yeah, I've forgotten that one.
I'm not sure that was Connacht, Tony. The one.
Oh, was that Connacht? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that one was Connacht. Yeah. Sorry,
we've had some.
We're on the rough end of a lot
there.
of decisions away from home.
But yeah, I mean, I think that you got to bring that in context with our performances there, because quite often we have actually performed well there, but we haven't quite gotten it over the line because you need something special to get past.
And on that note, we've got Adamson as a TMO and Holly Davidson as the referee. So
I mean, the damage Adamson can do is mitigated by him only being the TMO, not the referee. I better not talk about referees. I promised I wouldn't.
Well, we do try to avoid it, but I mean that is a nightmare combination away in Ireland, isn't it? Davidson in the middle and Adamson on the TMO. Probably only worse if they were the other way round. I would suggest if Adamson was there the whole game. But yeah, I mean that does make it an uphill battle. But we crack on, nevertheless, into team selection. So it's a bit of a longer injury report this week for us. Obviously, the long-term guys, Ed Byrne, who I can't remember, it was somebody on the Reddit put up brackets doesn't exist was his injury at this point. But yeah, Ed Byrne, Teddy Williams, and Theo Cabango are your long-term guys. Kieran Azarati, Talupi Faltau, and Ellis Bevan definitely out. Ewan Stevens and Jacob Beetham. We're going to rule them out for our team selection, as we just don't know yet. I don't even think the club quite know yet. Maybe if they're going to be available, not for this weekend. So we'll struggle to include them. Somebody did mention somewhere that they thought they'd seen Ben Donnell as a travelling reserve at the game on Saturday. I thought that it was Tom Cottle and that they're sort of two tall, dark-haired guys. So I'm going to keep Donald ruled out just because the news last week was that they were hoping he would be back for Leinster rather than back for Ulster. So unless he's made some sort of miracle recovery, he is still sidelined. And then obviously we're missing Belcher, Wainwright, Mann, Botham, Ben Thomas, Grady, and Adams to the Wales squad. Steph Emmanuel and Tom Bowen, as far as I'm concerned, are available if we need them. I know the Scarlets will be starting with Carwyn Leggett-Jones at 10 this weekend, who's also in the Wales under-20 squad. And as last week, I think there might have been an element of, we got Stevens there, so we don't necessarily need Bowen. We can leave him with the 20s. I think this week it's looking like we might actually just need Bowen because we're suddenly quite short on wingers. So I don't understand what the benefit to anyone really would be of Bowen not being available to us this weekend. So let's put him in there, and then Emmanuel similar. If we're going to say we'll start him at 12, why wouldn't Wales let him start at 12 going into the Six Nations? So Fraser will start up front. We've got Barrett, Southworth, and Dormer, full complement at loose head, and then Lloyd or Hughes really at hooker. Ethan Lewis seems very much consigned to the 0-minute loan club again. I haven't seen any footage of him, so we'll stick with Lloyd and Hughes. And then it's an interesting selection at tight head where I think, well, it's Sebastian who starts, but who you put on the bench. Which way are you going with that?
I'd say in terms of Ed Byrne, I think he might be like some sort of financial fraud. He's just a name that's never existed in the books. Someone's benefiting off him, and then
it must be a Y11 link.
I'm sure exactly. Like a loose head. I think I'd go. It's tricky. You've got the three. Southworth, Dom, and Barrett are available. That's pretty hard to select. And I think, Reece Barrett, again, he played brilliantly against Benetton, so I'd probably start him, to be honest, if he's into it. And, we got this huge, there's no point in holding him back for any reason, unless he's got an injury, so I'd probably go Barrett to start. I think hooker, Evan Lloyd, I really like him as a player, so I'd start Evan Lloyd, obviously he's on the bench, and then Sebastian is on there, and I guess it's Will Davis King, but I don't know who else would be able to cover that. Yeah, Tony, I'll do it.
One question about Evan Lloyd, his line-out throw-in, and this might just be me misremembering, but I don't remember it being particularly good the last couple of times he's played. So, based off Steve's Met Office report, is David Hughes a better option? But I think it's probably 1A, but literally a question for discussion more than me actually.
I thought I agree that previously it has been erratic, maybe is a slightly word of saying it. I thought it was better on the weekend, though. He didn't have too much off the bench. There was only two, I think, but there was one in particular which was contested. It might have been his first one, just inside the Benetton half in front of the south stand, and he hits his man really nicely. I agree that there is a conversation to be had there. I think what outweighs it for me to put Lloyd in is that we need to see him. We just need to see him play at this point now. He's obviously got so much talent around the park, and I think the only way he does get better at that line-out throw-in is to play. I think I would stick with Lloyd to start, but I would be prepared to bring Hughes on early if Lloyd's arrows are not functioning at all. I wouldn't hang him around and just be like, oh, let's stick to the 65 minutes and see how he goes. If it's going badly in the first half, hook him at half time. If you need to be, I think that.
You don't even need to wait until half time, do you?
No,
you just go 30 minutes in, and then you can always bring him back on.
Yeah, bit of Bloodgate. Who was your backup loosehead, Fraser? Southworth or Dormer?
I think Dormer, I feel like that last game he had an absolute mare, and I don't think that's representative of him. And obviously he's had quite a lot of time out, so I'd probably go with him. I mean, it's kind of harsh on Southworth that wouldn't be in the squad because he's been great for us. So that loosehead selection is really difficult, to be honest, and I don't feel good not having Southworth in the squad, but I'd probably give it to Doma just to get his confidence back and just prove it, give him the chance again and get some minutes. I think he deserves that, and I think he'll do well.
I would have Southworth on the bench so he can come on and score the match-winning drop goal. It's written.
Just picks up his shirt and there's another shirt underneath that says "Suck on that, Barrett and Dollar." Second row wise, I've just put McNally and not back in there. I don't know if there's any obvious objections to that really. And then back row, Tony. It's not with having ruled out Donnell and with Mann and both from being away and Falatev sidelined. It's not a huge amount of pickings all of a sudden, but we've got Basham, Dan Thomas, Alan Lawrence, Lucas De La Rua there. Is it sort of obvious just to go with Basham, Thomas, and Lawrence from the start, or am I missing somebody?
No, I'd go Basham, De La Rua, Lawrence, or De La Rua, Basham, Lawrence.
You wouldn't. So you wouldn't start Thomas, or
no? I wouldn't start Thomas. I'd have him on the bench.
Okay. And then
just on the inexperience thing about getting players to step up that level. De La Rua has looked really good for the Rags. He's looked decent when he's had first team games. Let's give him another chance in what's going to be a difficult game when you've got someone like Big Al at the back who's carrying like a monster. You've got an international next to him in Basham, and you've got McNally and not there as well. Like, it allows him to be him.
Well, we said their name so many times though. I've got lost about which way round. Who's wearing 6 and 7?
I don't know.
It doesn't really matter. I don't.
No, because De La Rua's played 6, 7, and 8. Basham's played 6 and 7,
and 8. He played 8.
Well, yes.
So
you choose dealer's choice.
Okay, I'll put De La Rua in the 7 just for fun, really, more than anything. But yeah, I mean, realistically, they could switch and swap that during the game if they wanted to. There's no real hard or fast rules on that one. Steve, halfback wise, Mulder and Davis with other Davis, Ian Davis, still in the reckoning there. And then you got the usual fly half, Sheedy, Lloyd, Wild. Which way are you going with those?
I think Mulder's start. I think, as you were saying earlier, he seems to be playing himself back into a bit of form. So I think, him to start. Sheedy kind of picks himself. I'd be quite tempted to have a look at Harry Wild. I think he's due a start in the URC. I think it's been a long time coming. I'm not sure if Ulster away in the wet is going to be the ideal game for that, unfortunately. So it would need to be Sheedy.
Leinster at home, we'll pencil him in for.
Okay.
And then outside backs is where it could get a bit messy, really, with a kind of lot of players fitting into a lot of positions depending on what we need from them. Fraser, just to go with 12, because I think that's a little bit more isolated than the rest of the positions. You've got this is where there's a real experience / youngster choice of Rory Jennings or Steph Emmanuel. Who would you like to see wearing 12?
I think I'd probably like to see Steph Emmanuel at 12 because we kind of know what Rory Jennings can do, and he could be a bench option. But yeah, I'd like to see Steph Emmanuel. I think he needs to. It's kind of surprising. I was surprised he's in the under-20 squad because he's been in that quite a lot, and he's kind of proven himself that he can play at a higher level. So I'd probably give him another chance to do that and start him at 12. He's got a lot about him, so that would be my pick.
I feel like that's probably what most of us would go with. I do feel like this is one where it's like I'm glad I'm not the head coach on this pick, because if you pick the youngster and it goes wrong, you get hammered, and if you pick the experienced guy and it goes wrong, you get hammered. Basically, is a bit of a lose-lose. But yeah, I just feel like if Emmanuel goes in and he has a tough game, then you sort of go, it's a good learning curve. Whereas when Jennings didn't go that great against Exeter, you're like, why wouldn't you have just had Emmanuel in there then, particularly is the question.
I think Emmanuel allows Sheedy to be Sheedy.
Yeah. And, we'll pick a 13 now, but there's some good experience options in the outside backs as well. Sheedy will talk Emmanuel through that game as well. Like, it's not a bad situation to be in for a
or the other way around.
Well, I mean, possibly a bit of that. I don't know how to approach this next bit then, Tony. Maybe we'll just go around all three of us and sort of what would your like outside backs be outside of 12? You've got, I mean, there's a few different ways you can go. 13, I've got Millard and Schmidt is still a little bit of 50-50, but then both of them could be wing options this weekend if we needed them to be. You've got Bowen, obviously, Elijah Evans. You could put Matty Young onto a wing. Even I've got Johan Lloyd as a question mark as a winger option, and he played there a couple of times for Bristol when he was coming through as well. Full back then you've got Winnett if fit, and then Halfpenny, Matty Young, Johan Lloyd again in there after his 40 minutes last week. What's your 11, 13, 14, 15?
Who's
Sorry,
that?
that's you.
Me?
I did say your name
Uh,
ages ago, sorry, and then
oh,
I just
sorry.
went on loads of other names too.
Uh, I think I would start Winnett at 15. There is obviously the news that he pulled out quite late from the Benetton game. I think he'll be galvanised by the performances of Beetham over the last few weeks, and he's missed out on the Welsh squad again. He'll want to put down a marker in case there are any outside back injuries for him to get called up to the Six Nations. Bowen on one wing. Hadn't thought about Millard on the wing because I'd probably put him at 13, and then my other wing.
It's the right
I
wing, which
talked
I think
myself
is
into a corner, yeah.
yeah. So
Because
you've
you want a
got
big lad out there, didn't you?
Elijah Evans and Smith.
Yeah.
Matty Young could fit that
My
hole
my worry
potentially.
is that Elijah Evans looked really, really good at 13 on Saturday. So maybe you have Millard and Elijah Evans, and you have the two of them interchanging a little bit. But then I worry that Bowen and Elijah Evans is quite a young wing pairing for a back three that's going to get bombed in pissing down rain, as Steve said. So
Is it that right wing is going to be particularly crucial because the likelihood is it's Werner Koch going up against them, who I mean he is a funny name, but also unbelievable in the air. Like that's sort of his thing
yeah,
after the Seven stuff. He's just like a mad athlete, and yeah, I mean that could be a long day if you put the wrong person in
so
there. And
I don't know about what the others think. And maybe Matty Young's but he's played wing for the Rags, I think, a couple of times. But
yeah, it would
so
be.
basically, chuck a fullback out there against Werner Koch and go from there. Try and keep Koch down in it.
Nicely played. Steve, I don't know if you agree with the ones that have been put out, what you would do for that right wing spot.
It's important how we handle cock, isn't it? Sorry. Um, there is another like off the ball selection possibility, which is Johan Lloyd at 12, because I'm pretty sure he played there for Bristol. If for some, I think it'd be silly for Wales under-20s to not release Bowen and Emmanuel to us, but if they didn't, I'd be kind of leaning towards, well, let's see Johan Lloyd play 12. But let's say, okay, let's go with Emmanuel at 12. I think I'd pair Millard with him as the more experienced
Yeah.
Cardiff player. 11, Bowen, assuming he's available. 15, tricky. I would have Elijah Evans at 14. I'm tempted to go with Matty Young, but Elijah Evans has more time playing 14. I think he was playing 14 in pre-season, which sort of suggests they were seeing him as a 14. So his time. I'm kind of tempted to leave out Winnett and play Johan Lloyd at 15 if I can't have him at 12. Purely because of goal kicking in the wet. Because if it does turn out to be a tight dogfight, no disrespect to Callum Sheedy, but I think it's the sort of game where we might be glad to have Johan Lloyd on the field.
You've got Steph Emmanuel who can kick as well. If you've got him at 12, so that because he's got a big old boot on him as well, so that it gives us a couple of different kicking options across the back line. So
yeah, and if we're not being pessimistic and Beetham is fit, then it might be quite interesting to see him play 12 in this game in the wet with his big boot. But no, I'd be equally excited to see Steph Emmanuel play there.
Fraser, what would your selection be for some of those trickier positions?
I think I'd go Professor Smith as 13. Uh, I don't know what I think. Yeah, maybe he's a little bit more experienced. I don't know. I think I'd go Schmidt and then push Millard to the wing, and then have Bowen there. I know Millard's not the biggest, but I think he's competitive and he's got he again. I think he's pretty strong defensively. So I'd probably go Millard on the wing, Bowen on the other wing, and then Schmidt at 13. And I guess I'm also tempted to put Johan Lloyd at 15 because again he played really well in the last game, but also you know I'm gonna plump for Johan Lloyd at 15. With respect to Cam Winner, I know I love Winner, but yeah, why not?
Where I write down the team so I can read it out afterwards is a mess. It's got so many it's got so many different names here now. So I think what I've gleaned from that is we've got 2 votes for Manuel at 12, 2 votes for Millard at 13, and then 2 votes for Johan Lloyd at fullback. And then you've also had a different name each for the right wing spot. So I'm going to make an executive decision and put Elijah Evans out there.
I can get on board with Elijah Evans.
So
I think Elijah Evans will be able to hold down Cock in the wet conditions.
Yeah, just only yet. Our selected back line then is Mulder, Sheedy, Emmanuel and Millard in the centre, Bowen, Evans and Lloyd as a back three. Bench then, I suppose Ali Davis is the obvious replacement scrum half option. You don't need a replacement fly half then with Lloyd there. So I think I'd like that. Either way, I'd love to see Matty Young in a 23 at some way, somehow. So you'd put him in there. And then probably Jennings then, 22. Like for a bit of experience off the bench if required. I don't know if I'm trying to think. The Schmidt, I suppose, is the other option you could have.
I suppose with Schmidt, he's that much more versatile.
Yeah.
So
Maybe we'll go Schmidt and Young as your outside backs then. And I mean, Schmidt is not quite as experienced in terms of first team rugby, but he's been around rugby enough times to be a bit of a sensible head. Tony, you look like you.
With that sort of flexibility on the pitch, do you think that we might go 6-2?
I'm not sure how we can is the only slight problem.
Okay.
I think we've got enough spare back five forwards to do it. I think the only way you could do it, I think, if Donnell is available, then you could do that. I think the only other way, though, if we're ruling Donnell out, is to have Cottle on there as well. And I'm not too sure that him being on there justifies it being a 6-2. Yeah. I don't think Van Zyl would turn to him at like 55 minutes and say, go and change the game necessarily.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right, so go from 1 to 23 then. We've got Rhys Barrett, Evan Lloyd, Javan Sebastian, Josh McNally, George Knott, Tane Basham, Lucas De La Rua, Alan Lawrence, Johan Mulder, Callum Sheedy, Tom Bowen, Steph Emmanuel, Harry Millard, Elijah Evans and Johan Lloyd, David Hughes, Corey Domachowski, Will Davis-King, Rory Thornton, Dan Thomas, Ali Davis, Cornell Schmidt and Matty Young. I think that could well be miles off because we just don't know player availability.
Inevitably be completely wrong.
It is a tricky week to do it in a week where your internationals are unavailable and there's a few fitness question marks. But if it were that 23, I don't think that could go out there and be competitive. At least I think is what you would say.
Yeah, I reckon so. And Ulster will be in the same bracket, won't they? They'll be trying to muddle a squad together, I guess. So I think. Yeah, we could definitely get out there and make it a competitive game.
Yeah, it will come down to who could be the most fluid after the most changes. I think it's probably where that's going to be won or lost on Saturday. Any more on Ulster?
No, I'm just trying to think of more cock jokes, but I might try and say.
No, we're not doing more. We've maxed out on that now. At the start, I thought it would be how much swearing it was about Y11, and now it's about how much cock jokes there are. Any other business from anybody? I don't think there's anything coming listener questions wise. No. I think all that remains to say is thank you, Steve, for joining me.
Thank you.
Cheers, Tony.
Y11 can get in the bin.
And cheers, Fraser.
Cheers, Dad.
We'll be back for our last one of regular programming in this fixture block. We'll look back on that Ulster game and maybe see if there's any more ownership news or how many cock jokes we can fit in if he does play. But until then, thank you very much for listening and we will catch you next week.